Marcus Webb, a human spec ops soldier, finds himself alone on the planet Vexara Prime after his entire unit is wiped out during a reconnaissance mission gone catastrophically wrong. The mission was supposed to be simple. Observe the Vexari Empire's military movements and report back. Instead, they walked into a trap that killed 11 soldiers in minutes. Marcus survives through a combination of training, luck, and sheer refusal to die. Now he's stranded deep in enemy territory with no extraction, no backup, and no realistic chance of survival. His communication equipment is destroyed, his supplies are minimal, and Vexari forces are hunting him with professional efficiency. Most soldiers would surrender or hide, waiting for inevitable capture. Marcus chooses a third option. He fights. Not because he thinks he can win, but because if he's going to die on this alien planet, he'll make them remember the cost. He wages a one-man guerrilla campaign that shouldn't be possible. He sabotages supply lines, disrupts patrols, uses his knowledge of human asymmetric warfare to turn the Vexari's numerical advantage into a liability. He's outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but he fights like he's the army and they're the invaders. The Vexari military is baffled. They're a warrior species with millennia of combat tradition, and this single human is causing more disruption than entire battalions. Reports reach the imperial palace of a phantom soldier who strikes without warning and vanishes without trace. Empress Sethara, sovereign of the Vexari Empire, hears these reports with skepticism bordering on disbelief. Humans are known to the Vexari as technologically competent but physically inferior, hardly a warrior species. The idea that one human could challenge her military is absurd. She decides to observe this phenomenon personally. The Empress rarely visits active military zones, but her curiosity is piqued. She takes her elite guard and travels to Vexara Prime to witness this impossible human firsthand. What she finds changes everything. Marcus, cornered in a defensive position with depleted ammunition and failing equipment, faces down a Vexari assault team. He should surrender. Any rational assessment says he's defeated. Instead, he fights with a ferocity that borders on madness. Hand-to-hand combat against warriors bred for war, tactical improvisation that turns their own weapons against them, and an absolute refusal to stop even when his body is failing. Sethara watches from a distance, her long ears pinned forward in focused attention, as this human does the impossible. He survives, not through superior strength or advanced technology, but through sheer determination mixed with combat creativity her warriors aren't trained to counter. When her forces finally subdue him, not kill, she's ordered him taken alive. Marcus is barely conscious, covered in injuries, but his eyes still hold defiance. As they drag him before the Empress, he manages to speak in broken Vexari. "That all you got?" Sethara stares at this human who should be broken, who has every reason to beg for mercy, and instead challenges her with his last breath. Something shifts in her perception. This isn't just a soldier. This is something her empire hasn't encountered. A human who embodies warrior spirit in ways her own people would respect. "Bind his wounds," she orders, shocking her commanders. "I wish to speak with him when he regains consciousness." "This human interests me." Her second-in-command protests. "Empress, he has killed 37 soldiers. He is enemy combatant. He is warrior who fought impossible odds with honor. That deserves recognition, not execution." Her silver eyes, Vexari eyes that can track movement in darkness, fix on Marcus's unconscious form. "I will learn what makes a human fight like this, and then I will decide his fate." As Marcus is carried to medical containment, Sethara finds herself thinking about human combat doctrine, about what desperation and determination can accomplish, and about the soldier who refused to accept defeat even when defeat was the only rational option. She doesn't yet know that this moment, this decision to spare one human warrior, will reshape her empire's relationship with humanity. She only knows that something about Marcus Webb demands understanding rather than simple elimination. The war between humans and Vexari has been cold conflict for decades. Territorial disputes, trade disagreements, occasional skirmishes that never escalate to full engagement. But this moment, this impossible stand by one human against an empire, will be the catalyst that changes everything. Sethara just doesn't know it yet. She only knows she's never been more intrigued by an enemy in her entire reign. And Marcus, when he wakes in an alien medical facility with an Empress waiting to question him, will have to decide if fighting is still the answer, or if survival requires a different kind of courage entirely. Marcus wakes in a medical facility that's equal parts prison and hospital. His injuries are treated with Vexari technology far beyond human medical capabilities. Wounds that should have taken weeks to heal are already closing. He's restrained but not cruelly, and a guard stationed outside looks more curious than hostile. Then Empress Sethara enters alone, and Marcus's tactical assessment goes into overdrive. She's tall even for Vexari, her long ears adorned with royal markings, her presence filling the room despite her calm demeanor. She wears no obvious weapons but moves with the confidence of someone who doesn't need them. "You are awake, good." She pulls a chair to his bedside with casual authority. "I am Empress Sethara. You are Marcus Webb, human soldier, survivor of the unit we eliminated 6 days ago." Here to gloat. Marcus's voice is rough from disuse, or just making sure your prisoner is comfortable before the execution. "Neither. I am here because you interest me." She settles into the chair, studying him with unsettling focus. "You fought my army alone. This should not be possible. Yet you survived 4 days, caused significant disruption, and when cornered, refused surrender even facing certain death. Why?" "Because surrendering to aliens who killed my unit seemed like a bad tactical choice. You chose death over capture. That is not tactics, that is pride or madness." Her ears shift curiosity. "Explain your reasoning." Marcus considers lying, but something about her directness demands honesty. "Because if I was going to die anyway, I'd make it cost you. Make you remember that humans don't go quietly. Make you think twice before attacking us again." Strategic sacrifice, you were message as much as soldier." Sethara nods slowly. "Warrior logic, I understand this." "Great. Now you understand. Can we get to the execution part? I've got an appointment with a firing squad to keep." "There will be no execution." At his surprise, she continues, "You fought with honor against overwhelming odds. Vexari culture respects this. To kill you now would be wasteful and politically unwise." "Politically?" "Your actions have become known among my military. They speak of the human who fought like Vexari warrior, who embodied courage we value. Executing you would insult that courage." She leans forward slightly. "Instead, I propose alternative. You remain here as my guest. You provide insight into human military thinking. I ensure you are treated well and eventually return to your people. So I'm a prisoner with better accommodations. How generous. You are warrior who earned respect through action. There is difference." Her silver eyes meet his steadily. "Also, I am curious about human combat psychology. You fight differently than we do. I wish to understand why." What follows over the next weeks is the strangest captivity Marcus has ever experienced. He's given comfortable quarters, access to recreational facilities, and regular conversations with the Empress where she asks detailed questions about human tactics, strategy, and military philosophy. At first, Marcus provides minimal information, suspicious of her motives. But Sethara's questions aren't about extracting intelligence. They're genuinely academic, trying to understand the fundamental differences between how humans and Vexari approach warfare. "Vexari train from childhood in combat," she explains during one session. "We perfect techniques over decades. Your species has shorter lifespans, less physical capability, yet you develop effective warriors. How?" "We adapt. Learn from mistakes. Don't rely on tradition when innovation works better. Marcus finds himself engaged despite his intentions to remain distant. Your warriors are excellent, but they fight the way they've always fought. Predictable. Predictable. Her ears pin back irritation. Our combat doctrine has conquered 40 systems. Against species who fight similar styles. Against humans who fight dirty and improvise constantly, your doctrine has weaknesses. He pulls up tactical displays, showing her the ambush points he'd used. Here, here, and here, places your patrols pass without checking because your training says they're non-tactical terrain. I use that assumption against you. Sethara studies the displays with the focus of a commander learning from defeat. You exploited our strengths as weaknesses, turned our discipline against us. That's what humans do. We're not strongest or fastest, so we get creative. Their conversations become a strange form of mutual education. Sethara shares Vexari's strategic philosophy, and Marcus explains human asymmetric warfare. They debate tactics, argue about honor versus effectiveness, and slowly develop something that resembles respect despite their positions as captor and captive. The Vexari court notices. The Empress spending hours with a human prisoner raises questions, creates rumors. Her advisors express concern about showing too much interest in an enemy combatant. But Sethara dismisses their worries. She's learning valuable intelligence about human capabilities, she argues. The time is well spent. The truth is more complicated. Sethara finds Marcus's perspective fascinating, not just tactically but philosophically. He challenges her assumptions about warfare, about honor, about what strength means. And despite himself, Marcus finds the Empress compelling, brilliant strategist, genuinely interested in understanding rather than dominating, and carrying a burden of leadership he recognizes from his own commanders. 2 months into his captivity, Marcus is given increasing freedom within the palace. He's no longer restrained, can move through designated areas, even access training facilities where Vexari soldiers practice. They watch him with wary curiosity, the human who fought like a demon now walking among them peacefully. One evening, Sethara finds him in the combat training hall, observing Vexari warriors practice traditional forms. You judge our techniques, she says, joining him. I'm learning them. Know your enemy, right? Marcus glances at her, though I'm starting to question if enemy is the right word anymore. As am I, she's quiet for a moment. Marcus Webb, I have proposal. The conflict between our peoples is wasteful, built on misunderstanding and territorial pride. You have shown me humans are not weak species to be dismissed. Perhaps. There is path to alliance, instead of continued antagonism. You want me to be what, ambassador? I'm a soldier, not a diplomat. You are warrior whom my warriors respect. You are human who understands Vexari thinking. That is more valuable than traditional diplomacy. Her expression is serious. Help me build bridge between our peoples. Show my empire that humans are worthy partners, not just adversaries. Marcus considers this impossible proposition. Weeks ago, he was fighting for his life. Now an alien empress is asking him to help create peace between species that have been in cold war for decades. And if I refuse, then I honor my word and return you to human space, and we continue as we have been, two peoples wasting resources on conflict neither truly wants. She meets his eyes. But I hope you will not refuse. I think you see, as I do, that there is better path available. Why me? You could reach out through official channels, proper diplomatic protocols. Because official channels have failed for 20 years. What we need is not more diplomats speaking carefully. We need someone both sides respect, who has proven courage to both peoples. Her hand finds his, the gesture careful and meaningful. I believe you are that person, Marcus Webb. He looks down at their joined hands, human and Vexari, soldier and empress, former enemies becoming something neither expected. This is insane. Most worthwhile endeavors are. Almost a smile, will you help me? Marcus thinks about his dead unit. about the years of conflict that accomplished nothing, about the unexpected respect he's developed for this alien Empress who chose understanding over elimination. Yeah, I'll help, but we're doing this my way, direct, honest, no political dancing around problems. I would expect nothing less from the human who challenged my empire alone. Sethara's grip tightened slightly. This will not be easy. There are those on both sides who prefer war to peace. Good thing we're both stubborn then. They stand together in the training hall, former enemies turned unlikely allies, preparing to attempt something that might reshape two civilizations' futures. And if Marcus notices that Sethara's hand remains in his longer than strictly necessary, and if Sethara notices that Marcus doesn't pull away, neither mentions it. Some things are better discovered slowly. Proposal to establish formal peace talks between humanity and the Vexari Empire is met with skepticism from both sides. Human military command questions why they should trust the species that killed an entire unit, and Marcus's survival alone in enemy territory makes some suspect he's been compromised. The Vexari court questions their Empress's judgment in trusting a human warrior who killed 36 soldiers. Sethara faces the opposition head-on during a council session where Marcus is conspicuously present, a human standing in the Vexari throne room, unrestrained and positioned beside the Empress like an advisor. This human defeated our forces through superior tactical adaptation, Sethara states clearly. To ignore what he represents, human capability, human determination, is strategic blindness. We can continue expending resources on conflict, or we can learn from this warrior and seek alliance with his people. The human is a killer, one council member objects. He cannot be trusted. He killed warriors in honorable combat during military operation. That is war, not murder. Sethara's tone allows no argument, and he has shown me that humans possess qualities we have underestimated. That underestimation is dangerous. Marcus speaks for the first time, his Vexari now fluent after months of immersion. I killed your soldiers because we were at war, but war between our peoples serves neither empire's interests. The Empress has shown me Vexari are not the enemy I believed. I hope to show you humans are not the weakness you believe. The council is not convinced, but Sethara is Empress. Her word is law. The peace initiative proceeds. Marcus becomes an unofficial ambassador, traveling between Vexari space and human territory, facilitating conversations, translating not just language but cultural context. He brings human diplomats to meet Sethara, brings Vexari commanders to Earth military installations, slowly building connections between peoples who had only known each other as adversaries. It's exhausting, frustrating work. Every step forward faces resistance. Hardliners on both sides see compromise as weakness. Old grievances surface constantly. Marcus mediates disputes, explains misunderstandings, and occasionally has to physically stand between groups ready to resume hostilities. Through it all, Sethara is his constant partner. She backs his initiatives with imperial authority, challenges her own people to see past prejudice, and works with human leadership to find common ground. They spend countless hours together, planning, strategizing, supporting each other through the exhausting process of building peace. Somewhere in those hours, professional partnership becomes personal connection. Marcus notices how Sethara's ears shift when she's amused, the way she listens with complete attention when he speaks, the quiet moments where she lets her guard down and shows the person beneath the crown. Sethara notices Marcus's unwavering integrity, his ability to find humor in tense situations, the genuine respect he shows for both cultures even when frustrated by both. Neither acknowledges it directly. There are too many complications, species differences, political ramifications, the fact that their relationship began with him as her prisoner. But the connection is there, growing stronger despite every logical reason it shouldn't exist. The crisis comes 6 months into the peace process when extremists from both species coordinate an attack on a joint human-Vexari conference. The goal is to sabotage the alliance by making each side blame the other. Marcus and Sethara are both present when the explosives detonate. Marcus's training takes over. He shields Sethara from the blast, taking injuries meant for her. Vexari guards move to protect their Empress, but she's focused on Marcus, unconscious and bleeding. Get him to medical, now. Her voice carries absolute authority even as panic edges in. Empress, your own injuries are irrelevant. Save him. In medical, while Vexari doctors work on Marcus, Sethara faces the reality of how much he's come to matter. Not just as political ally, not just as warrior she respects, but as someone whose potential death creates pain she hasn't felt in years. When Marcus wakes, he finds Sethara beside his bed, her usual composure completely absent. You are awake. Her voice is unsteady. You were unconscious for 18 hours. The doctor said. She stops, visibly struggling. Why did you shield me? Your duty is to humanity, not to protecting me. Wasn't thinking about duty, just reacted. Marcus manages a weak smile. You're welcome, by the way. Marcus Webb, you nearly died protecting me. Yeah, well, you've been protecting me since I was your prisoner. Figured I owed you. He reaches for her hand carefully. Sethara, I need to tell you something. While I was unconscious, I had a lot of time to think. That is not how unconsciousness works. Let me finish. I've been trying to ignore this, trying to stay professional, but nearly dying has clarified things. He squeezes her hand gently. I care about you, not as political ally, not as Empress I'm working with, as you. The person who chose understanding over elimination, who fights for peace when war would be easier. I care about you, and that complicates everything. Sethara's luminescent patterns, faint markings along her neck and arms that glow with emotion, flare brightly. It does complicate everything. There are species differences, political concerns, those who would see this as weakness or betrayal. I know all of that, but I needed you to know anyway. She's quiet for a long moment, then carefully. When I saw you injured, believed you might die, I felt something I have not felt since ascending to throne: fear. Not tactical concern or political worry, personal fear of losing someone important to me. Her silver eyes meet his. This is inadvisable, potentially catastrophic for our peace efforts. Every logical assessment says we should maintain professional distance. But I care for you as well, and I am tired of letting logic dictate everything. She leans down and kisses him gently, a gesture that crosses species and position and every practical consideration. When they separate, Marcus grins despite his injuries. So what now? We date while trying to prevent interstellar war. That seems complicated. Everything about our relationship has been complicated from the moment I ordered you spared. Her patterns glow warmly. But complicated is not impossible, just requires careful navigation. Lucky for us, I'm good at tactical challenges. And I am good at strategic planning. We will manage. She settles into the chair beside his bed, still holding his hand. Rest now. We have much work ahead of us. Peace agreements, cultural exchange programs, explaining to both our peoples why the Empress and the human warrior are pursuing personal relationship. No pressure. Immense pressure, but we face it together. Marcus closes his eyes, exhausted but content. Months ago he was fighting alone against impossible odds. Now he's fighting for peace alongside someone he never expected to meet, let alone fall for. Life has gotten extremely complicated, but for the first time in years, Marcus thinks complicated might be exactly where he wants to be. The peace treaty signing happened 9 months after Marcus's last stand on Vexara Prime. The ceremony combined human and Vexari traditions in ways that required careful negotiation, but created something both cultures could claim as their own. Representatives from dozens of systems attended, witnesses to what many had thought impossible, genuine alliance between species that had been enemies for decades. Marcus stood beside Sethara during the ceremony, no longer prisoner or unofficial ambassador, but officially recognized as special envoy, and privately as the Empress's partner. Their relationship had become public knowledge 3 months earlier when Sethara refused to hide something she considered honorable. The announcement had caused predictable controversy, but both human and Vexari leadership recognized that the architect of their peace deserved support, not condemnation. "You are nervous," Sethara observed quietly during the formal reception. "Your species shows stress through facial expressions I am still learning to interpret." "I'm always nervous at formal events. Too many ways to accidentally cause diplomatic incidents." Marcus adjusted his dress uniform, which incorporated both human military honors and Vexari ceremonial elements. "Plus, I keep thinking about how this started. Me fighting your army alone, convinced I was going to die on your planet. And instead you changed two empires' trajectories." Her hand found his, the gesture now comfortable despite remaining slightly scandalous to traditionalists. "I am grateful you survived long enough for me to recognize your worth. I'm grateful you decided capturing was better than killing. Really worked out in my favor." The evening proceeded with speeches, cultural performances, and the careful diplomacy of former enemies learning to be allies. Marcus fielded questions from human journalists about his relationship with an alien empress, handled with practiced ease the skepticism from military colleagues who still struggled with the transition from warrior to peacemaker. Later, in Sethara's private quarters, space they now shared, another scandal the Empress had simply ignored into acceptance. Marcus found her reviewing reports with expression that suggested the day's success came with complications. "Problem?" he asked, settling beside her. "Border dispute in the Kalthara sector. Both human and Vexari claim jurisdiction." She pulled up star charts showing the contested region. "Small issue now, but these small issues grow into large conflicts if not addressed. So we address it. That's what we do now, solve problems instead of fighting about them." Marcus studied the charts. Joint administration. Share the territory, share the resources. Logical solution. Will face resistance from territorial factions in both governments. She leaned against him, tired but determined. "Sometimes I miss the simplicity of warfare. At least enemies were clear." "Yeah, but peace is better, even complicated peace." He wrapped an arm around her. "We've got this, we've handled worse. We have handled assassination attempts, political conspiracies, and explaining to both our peoples why an empress and a soldier are living together, in defiance of approximately 60 different protocols." Almost a smile. "I suppose one border dispute is manageable." They worked late into the night, drafting proposals, coordinating with advisors, building the framework for yet another compromise in the ongoing project of maintaining peace. It was exhausting, often frustrating work that never seemed to end. But Marcus had learned something important over the past months. Building was harder than destroying, but infinitely more rewarding. Every problem solved, every conflict mediated, every small victory in maintaining alliance was worth the effort. And doing it with Sethara beside him made even the frustrating parts bearable. "Marcus," she said suddenly, setting aside her work, "I have been considering something. Should I be worried? Perhaps I wish to formalize our partnership." At his confused expression, she clarified, "Vexari bonding ceremony. Similar to human marriage, public recognition of our commitment to each other." Marcus processed this. "You want to marry me officially. I want to acknowledge publicly what we have built privately. Show both our peoples that alliance extends to personal level, that human and Vexari can not only coexist but form genuine bonds." Her uncertainty was visible. "Unless you object to this formalization." "Object." "Sethara, I'm just surprised you beat me to asking." He took her hands, noting how natural the gesture had become despite their physiological differences. "Yeah, I want that. All of it. The ceremony, the public commitment, the extremely complicated merging of two different species' relationship customs." Her luminescent patterns flared brilliantly. There will be opinions. Many, many opinions from people who believe this is inappropriate. Let them have opinions. We've been dealing with those since the beginning. He smiled. Besides, what are they going to do? You're the Empress. I'm the guy who fought your entire army and lived. We're pretty much unstoppable together. Arrogant assessment. Accurate assessment. He pulled her closer. So when's this ceremony happening? I thought perhaps 3 months. Sufficient time for planning, insufficient time for opposition to organize meaningful resistance. Pure Sethara logic. Turn even a wedding into tactical operation. Perfect. I'll let Earth know their special envoy is marrying an alien empress. That'll be a fun conversation. I will inform my council that their empress is bonding with a human warrior. Equally entertaining discussion awaits me. She kissed him softly. Worth it, though. Definitely worth it. The bonding ceremony 3 months later was even more elaborate than the peace treaty signing. Held on neutral station between human and Vexari space, it combined traditions from both cultures in ways that created something entirely new. Marcus wore formal attire blending human and Vexari elements. Sethara's ceremonial robes incorporated earth materials with Vexari craftsmanship. They exchanged vows in both languages, promising partnership that honored both their peoples while creating something unique to them. When they sealed the bond with the traditional Vexari gesture, foreheads touching, a moment of shared breath and connection, the assembled witnesses from dozens of species recognized they were seeing history. Not just because an empress married outside her species, but because this union represented something larger. Proof that even the most unlikely partnerships could work if both parties chose understanding over fear, cooperation over conflict. At the reception, Marcus's former commanding officer approached with expression mixing respect and bewilderment. Webb, when we deployed you on that recon mission, this was not the outcome anyone predicted. Yeah, I had different plans too. Mostly involved not dying. Marcus glanced at Sethara across the room, deep in conversation with human diplomats. But this works out better. You've changed the galaxy, son. One man fighting impossible odds became the catalyst for peace we didn't know we needed. The officer extended his hand. Proud of you. Your unit would be proud too. Marcus shook his hand, feeling the weight of those words. His unit, the soldiers who died on Vexara Prime, whose deaths had driven him to that impossible last stand. They'd never know their sacrifice led to this, to alliance and peace, and a future where humans and Vexari fought together instead of against each other. But maybe that was the point. Their sacrifice had meaning because he'd refused to let it be wasted, because he'd fought not just for survival but for something larger. Sethara found him later, reading his mood with the precision of someone who'd learned his expressions intimately. You think of your fallen unit. Yeah, wondering if they'd approve of how this turned out. They would. You honored their memory by refusing to surrender, and you honored their sacrifice by building peace from tragedy. She took his hand. You are warrior who created alliance from war. That is highest honor any soldier can achieve. Guess I'm not really a warrior anymore, though. More diplomat with combat training. You are both, you will always be both. She smiled. And I am Empress who fell in love with enemy soldier. We are both many things, that is acceptable. They stood together watching the celebration. Humans and Vexari mingling freely, sharing cultures, building friendships that would have been impossible a year ago. All because one human refused to quit, and one empress chose to understand rather than eliminate. So what now? Marcus asked. We've got peace, we're officially bonded, we've scandalized about 6 different cultures. What's left? Maintaining everything we have built, expanding alliance to other species, raising potential hybrid offspring if your human biology cooperates with Vexari genetics, which medical experts say is theoretically possible with assistance. She said it casually, but her patterns glowed with hope. You want kids? That's wow, we're really committing to this partnership. I want future with you, whatever form that takes. Her silver eyes met his warmly. Is that acceptable? More than acceptable. Terrifying and wonderful, and exactly what I want too. They kissed, sealing promises that extended beyond ceremony and vows into actual life together. It wouldn't be easy. Interspecies relationships never were, and their positions added complications most couples never faced. But they'd already done the impossible once. Doing it again together seemed perfectly achievable. Years later, historians would point to Marcus Webb's last stand on Vixara Prime as the turning point that changed galactic politics. They'd analyze his tactics, study his decisions, debate whether his survival was skill or luck. But Marcus knew the truth was simpler. He'd fought because he refused to quit, and he'd survived because an Empress chose mercy over execution. Everything after was just two people building something unexpected from that foundation. Sometimes the most important battles aren't the ones you win through force, but the ones you win by refusing to accept that enemies can't become allies, that differences can't become strengths, that love can't cross species and stars and every obstacle in between. Marcus had fought alone and found partnership, had faced death and found life, had made war and created peace. Not bad for a soldier who just wanted to survive his deployment. And with Sethara beside him, he was looking forward to whatever impossible